The future of Deutschland lies in the hands of its greatest generation. My friends, that is you see! Therefore, off to the camps, for the Kaiser, God, and the fatherland!
All Quiet on the Western Front was a really great movie. The score, the cinematography, the direction, the production, it was all made for a masterpiece. However, this movie did suffer from some pitfalls that other historical movies have actually done. These movies could carry a message forward, and I am sure for All Quiet on the Western Front, the sentiment or the message that they're trying to put in is definitely an anti-war sentiment, in which they would picture war as brutal or as horrible as possible in order to discourage people from war. For our sources, we refer to two books, which is Catastrophe, 1914, and the original novel, which is All Quiet on the Western Front. The strengths of this movie is that it was really well directed. But as historical evidences, yes, there were some moments where history is thrown to the back because the message was pushed forward, especially during fight scenes, and their strength is that they really tried to capture the goriness. The flamethrower was not made by the Allies. It was actually made by the Germans. The Germans used it in battle. The trenches featured in the movie wasn't the best design trench for the Germans at the time, because some might say the Germans had like one of the best designed trenches, and it did not reflect in the movie. However, the movie was really great.
Assalamualaikum everyone. So I'll be taking over for the second part of this video, which is source criticism. We're going to check if this movie is reliable or not, whether it's consistent, and all that sort kind of stuff. So let's get started.
There are two ways on how we're gonna criticize a historical source. The first one is gonna imply an internal criticism. So it tend to refer to the content of the source. We check, is the content reliable, is it accurate and trustworthy, does it match with other sources, and we also check for the author's background. We check for potential bias and whether the information makes sense. And the next type of criticism is external criticism. We check if the document itself is genuine or now fake. Is the source authentic? Was it created at the right time? We check the material, the handwriting. We check the physical state of the source itself.
Next is the test of credibility in the movie. All Quiet Western Front is based on a novel written by Erich Maria Remarque. He was a World War I veteran. He was born in Germany in 1998. He experienced the trench warfare between Germany and France, and he wrote All Quiet Western Front based on his delusionment of World War I. After that, we're going to talk about the use of fictionalization in the movie. Although the movie is fiction, many events that happen in the movie are inspired by real-life experiences of the German soldiers. The protagonist, Paul Bäumer, describes it very well with realistic terms. Lastly, the reception by critics. The movie portrayed World War I very well, but the historians said it was inaccurate and purposeless. This is because the historians said that the movie didn't fully capture the emotional depth of the novel. Some German critics felt the film was to portray German soldiers weak and overly broken.
Test of consistency. Consistency hold the role as to show the accurate information between the interpretation and the primary source. There are some inconsistent information from the movie comparing to the novel. For an example, Paul Bäumer's death. In the movie, it's shown to evoke the idea that the bloodlust of the officer and the politician class. Meanwhile, the book show that he died with peace in a beauty way. So from the movie, it shown that he got stabbed and until the last moment. But in some other cases, such as from the different movie or the different from the novel itself, it says that he did not get stabbed by someone. In the other historical source, the death of Paul Bäumer's is actually not clear of how he died. But the point is, Paul Bäumer's death was supposedly shown to in such a beauty and peaceful way.
In the movie All Quiet on the Western Front, corroboration is seen throughout the movie as soldiers try to validate each other's experiences. At first, Paul and his friends believed that war was noble and heroic, but once they arrived at the trenches, they quickly realized it was nothing but fear, blood, and survival. Their experiences completely shattered the patriotic ideals they had been taught. Paul, Kat, and Krop often discuss how pointless the war felt, and they all agree, not because someone told them, but because they have lived throughout the horrors firsthand. This sense of corroboration was also evident in how their reality clashed with the official reports. While military leaders claimed progress, the soldiers only saw death and destruction around them. The contrast between what they were told and what they experienced deepened their disillusionment. In the end, they didn't need speeches or propaganda to understand the truth. Their own suffering proved that war was never about honor or patriotism, but sheer brutality.
An anachronism is basically an action attributing something to a period it doesn't belong to. Filmmakers use this in movies for various reasons, such as the most popular being unintentional errors or mistake and oversights, creative freedom, and even to increase appeal to modern audiences. In the movie All Quiet on the Western Front, there are many anachronisms found, two of which are one, modern language German, and marks on the tree trunks used for trenches. Modern language German. The characters in the film use modern language and phrases which would not have existed at the time of World War I. And in the movie, the tree trunks used for construction of trenches can be seen with marks left by a single grip harvester, those machines which would not exist until the 1980s.
Describe one reason that led to the event.
Well, the reason is that European expansionism. So the British and the French, they are a growing empire. Their business are booming. So they're kind of like friends together. So this create tension between other empire, which is Austria-Hungary, also Germany. So this tension kind of lead to war, to World War I. So
the one reason that led to the event was the blank check assurance. This event is Germany giving full support to Austria-Hungary in terms of military and political triumph. So because of this blank check assurance, they were dragged into war when the Austrian-Hungary prince was assassinated.
One reason that led to the event is World War I started because countries in Europe were building strong armies and making alliances. Many young men were forced to join the war, thinking it was their duty.
The assassination of Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914. He was supposed to be the heir of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That's why he was targeted. On June 28th, he was killed. He was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, the heir of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Franz Ferdinand and his wife were traveling in an open car when Princip fired and killed them both.
First reason that led to the event is Serbian nationalism. So it happened like in the middle late of 1100 years, yes. And then it linked to the World War I.
Led to the event is European desire for territory and its resources, combined with the armed races and militarization, basically form an outbreak to World War I.
Explain one implication of the events to the local history.
The Malay rulers, I read that they have to sign an agreement to continue supporting the British so that they cannot switch sides. They cannot support the Germans, they have to remain loyal to the British.
One implication of the events to the local history is that the World War I essentially drove nationalism as a better ideology for the Malayan people to adopt.
One implication is the economic impact of Malaya's rubber and tin industries grew because these materials were essential for the war effort. This led to the economic boom but also increased the exploitation of local laborers. Many workers from China and India were brought into Malaya to meet the growing demand for resources.
One implication that affects to the local history, let's say about this. The German ship attacked and ambushed at the port of Penang and sunk 2 Allied ships. And then the Russian protect the cruiser, the Zemshag, and the French destroy French destroyer Moscow.
In 1915, a mutiny by Indian Muslim soldiers of the 5th Light Infantry stationed in Singapore, where they rebelled against the British rule on February 15, 1915. This was due to them hearing rumors of possibly being sent to fight against the Ottoman Empire, largely Muslim, during World War I. The mutiny was quickly suppressed by British forces, and there were many casualties on that day.
I want to talk about the effect that event have on Burma, now is known as Myanmar. During that time period, the British, because of war, they colonized and they gained power and they can colonize everywhere they want, and they were like forcing and laboring the Burmese people for infrastructure, agriculture, and also like laboring them to walk on a railroad or building railroad, etc., etc.
Identify one example of other historical sources related to the movie.
So I find buku teks sejarah Form 4, Agas Gunung, Title SPM, and that textbook actually spoke about the World War I.
One example of other historical sources related to the movie is a book, War Photos, that I took from IUM Library.
War poetry from Wilfred Owens was set at the current past. This poem describes the brutal realities of trench warfare, focusing on gas attack that leaves the soldier dying in agony. It challenges the idea that dying for one's country is glorious, which aligns with the anti-war message of the movie.
Buku Sejarah Form 4, the history book used by public schools in Malaysia.
One example of other historical sources that are related to the movie is this.
Okay, one example of other historical sources related to the movie is one document from the journalist named Sikri Sasul.
Identify one example of fact from the movie.
Okay, one example of fact. It's a really cool fun fact. So the movie shows the armistice signing. So armistice signing tu, is signed on the 11th. It will be effective on the 11th day, on the 11th month, on the 11 a.m. of the war. So around 11 a.m. on the 11th of November. So 11, 11, 11. The really cool fun fact.
One example of fact from the movie is that the flamethrowers in the movie wasn't created by the Allies. It was made and used by the Germans, so the flamethrower scene wasn't actually historically accurate.
One fact from the movie is One of the trenches locations took up space that was 1 kilometer long and 600 meters wide.
The writer of the book, the original writer, All Quiet on the Western Front, Eric Maria Remarque, had actual war experience.
It's the use of mustard gas, which is historically accurate, and it is a well shown.
The story itself, it was banned. The book itself got banned in German, like around 1930.
Describe one lesson that can be learned from the event.
So this movie shows the brutality of war. So I think, in my opinion, the lesson that can be learned that we have to solve problem through diplomatic resolutions. So we can avoid innocent civilian life being lost, and we can avoid the high cost of operating a war.
And one lesson that can be learned from the event is that all problems can be dealt with diplomatically between states and countries.
One lesson that can be learned from the event is war causes a lot of pain and suffering, shows us why we should work for peace instead of fighting.
A key lesson that can be learned from this is that one isolated event can cause a chain reaction to large-scale conflicts when combined with pre-existing tensions.
The war is futile, causing immense loss and reduction, and it has no positive effect on the society.
Everything can be complete with just a peaceful meeting that made by between two countries. That's all.